What's up, you guys? This is Warframe Plays, and today we've got a little bit of a wombo combo. I'm snatching that snapshot and grabbing that dress to kill, and I'm mushing them together so they can make a beautiful, wonderful little Saryn baby. Now, as always, I'm going to be showing you guys the current Saryn build that I'm using, and legitimately, this thing will get you 60 to 80% of your team's damage. 60 if you're in there with like some competitive frames like other Saryns, Niduses, and all that kind of stuff, and then 80% if you've got a more like normal, standard, well-rounded team. So we're going to be showing that off, as well as the playstyle that goes along with it. And of course, because we've got some dress to kill parts in there, I'm going to be showing off the Nita Moda skin that everybody has been asking me for the look for. I've tossed in a couple extra looks so that you guys can like vary it up a little bit. Regardless, let's go ahead and jump on in. Now, before we jump in the build, I do want to chat about playstyle, mainly because of the fact that things have definitely shifted since she's had her recent rework. Now she's only got one Spore to work with, and she's got to go ahead and spread that among the masses instead of being able to recast over and over and over again. That definitely changes things up. Now, I do also want to make note that the majority of places that I've tested this with is in Kuva Survival and in Onslaught, because those are really the two game modes that I play now that I've like, you know, retired from the normal daily grinds of Warframe. It's just kind of like, well, let me just pick up extra bits and bobs here and there. So that is definitely where I have seen this shine, especially when we get into the higher levels. So all that you really want to keep in mind is that your whole purpose is to spread the spores. It's not really to kill the enemies, because the spores will end up doing that for you. You really just want to get into the spore wave and keep spreading the spore wave. So basically what happens is, as soon as you get into your mission, you go ahead and you toss on Toxic Lash, then you toss down a spore. Then the spore, you basically just spread that. And you'll notice with the build that I have, it's got a whole lot of range in it, and it spreads and spreads fast. So what I actually do is I don't run around like mowing down a mob. What I do is I'll actually bullet jump through. I'll try to get at the very, very like head of the wave, and I'll smack it, and then of course that will spread it again. And then what I'll do is, as that spreads, I'll look over at the other end of the wave, and I'll kind of like bullet jump over there, I'll smack that end, and it'll kind of spread from there, and slowly like the whole map is covered in spores. And basically all you have to do is kind of figure out where your waves are going and how to kind of push all of your spores into the places that they need to be. And that becomes really, really easy with the overextended build that I have right now. And basically what happens is you just depend on the spores to deal the majority of your damage, because of the fact that it starts escalating and going higher and higher, and it starts stripping enemy armor. It's not really something that you have to worry about too much. Really, it's just moving and grooving those spores. Now, another thing that I wanted to point out, which I found to be a weird phenomenon with this build, and I'll tell you right now, it's just strange to me, but you know that moment when you're there with Saryn and you're like, oh, I only have 1 or 2 enemies left that have the spore on them, right? And you're like, well, should I recast the spore? Should I not recast the spore? Well, before you try recasting the spore, one thing that I highly encourage you to do is to lay down a miasma. And the reasoning behind this, I think this is why it works, okay? So what you'll end up seeing is enemies will have their health cut in half, and the enemies with the spores on them will end up dying. But the thing is, if there are any enemies around them, of course, because a spore will spread either by being hit, by burst manually, or Toxic Lash, so you just hit them and then it spreads, or if an enemy dies. So technically, you haven't stopped the spore yet. If that enemy dies and it spreads to other enemies around, it'll start like the wave all over again. So the way that I always say it is, if you got 1 or 2 enemies left on your spore, go ahead and just do a last ditch effort to go ahead and toss out that miasma. Hopefully it'll kill them, and anything that's around them, it'll end up spreading too. Now, when we talk about the spread of this, I think that is where we can go ahead and take a look at the build. Now, I know you guys are probably looking at me a little bit crazy for this build, and I completely understand. As you can see, it is my configure B. It is not the main build that I was running with. However, I decided to experiment, and after I experimented with this build, this became the one that I just started using, and I started testing it over and over and over. Really, I was ready to make this video at midnight. It is like 2:30 right now in the morning, and I was just like, well, let me test it more. Let me test it more. Let me make sure, because if I'm going to put my name on this and put this out into the universe, I don't want to feel embarrassed. But legitimately, I went and I started going into pubs and I started using this, and my damage output just like went up. Like, I was not seeing anything below 60% in a competitive group. When I say competitive, there's like another Saryn in there, there's a Volt, there's a Nidus. Like, we're fighting to deal damage. There were like no support people in that team, and it was absolutely crazy. Now, of course, once you do get some supports in, my percentages started going up into the 80s, and that is all because of the fact that this thing has so much freaking range. So as you can see here, aside from the standard survivability mods and aside from the standard efficiency mods, I did combine Streamline and Prime Flow, mainly because of the fact that I have Hunter's Adrenaline in there. So if you take a couple big hits, it'll kind of store it up for you. But the main feature is we've got Cunning Drift, Overextended, and Stretch. Now, when I was talking about, you know, kind of spreading things earlier, the spread on this is 40 meters. So when you Toxic Lash and one of those spores bursts, it is a 40-meter area of effect that this thing is going to spread other spores into. And that's why I also said when you only have 1 or 2 spores left, go ahead and use Miasma, and hopefully that in combination with the spores will help it spread, because Miasma on this has a 50-meter spread. So this thing is 50 meters, popping, you know, popping the last bit of those spores that far away, hoping that there are 40 meters within, that there are other enemies within the 40 meters for the spore spread. And that's why I tend to find popping Miasma much better than just recasting over and over, because it'll just spread some more, and you just got to keep your eyes out for the spreading. Now, I've also tossed in a couple Arcane Graces, and that's mainly because I have not been able to fit in the beautiful, wonderful regenerative mult, and I missed that, and I wanted a little bit more survivability. Also, you'll note that I have Energy Siphon in there. The reason I have Energy Siphon in there is because I didn't want to put another Forma in to make Growing Power work. If you've got Growing Power and you want to go ahead and toss that in, and you can fit all of the range that you've already got over here, feel free to go ahead and do that. That'll definitely help out when it comes to the power strength. Not that you really need it, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, but if you're power strength fiend and you feel weird about going below 95, that is all on you. Regardless, this is definitely the build that I'm using at the very, very moment and finding a lot of success with. So moving along to the fashion frame portion, as you can see, there is no face cam at the moment, and that is mainly because of the fact that it is really late at night, like I had stated earlier, and I don't have time to do all the vignettes, so I'm going to do it sloppy-doppily. But as you can see here, we have Saryn's Nita Moda skin. This is a part of Tenogen. Look at the energy colors coming down the back. I love the way that they had placed that, but legitimately this is my current favorite Saryn skin. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's very graphical, and one of the things that I kind of stated about it before is the fact that I absolutely love the textures on this. Like the bodice, as I was coloring it, this whole portion is like matte. It's like a soft suede-y matte. Well, maybe not suede, but it's like a soft kind of like silky matte. Very, very pretty. And then of course the leg looks almost like it's made out of gemstones, which I absolutely love. So I wanted to make sure to kind of show that off for you. I do have a couple other looks, but I wanted to go ahead and of course do the attachments that go along with this. Now this first look, we're going to be looking at the Tenogen set. I feel like the Tenogen set looks perfect with the Saryn Nita Moda skin. It's just kind of like it's got the same kind of like matte kind of texture on it as well that just matches so well, and I'm just like, oh my god, it looks absolutely fantastic. And Tenogen is coming up, so I'm like, why not? If you guys want this armor set, you can pick up the Digital Deluxe skin, and you should be able to get that, or the Digital Deluxe pack, and that'll have that available there for you. Now next up, this is the one that I was using in the video, and I really wanted to do something with like a coppery brass. Isn't that so freaking amazing? And I wanted to kind of lighten up the chest portion. Now, the armor pieces that I actually went ahead and used with this is our good old friendly Sarynx, if I can find it. There you go. So as usual, we just do the chest and shoulders because I feel like it's a better fit, and I didn't really want to cover up any of that thigh section, mainly because of the fact that the metallic boots are just, it would just be a sin to cover it up. But as you can see, this gives her a little bit of shape up top, a little bit of bulkiness. I feel like it makes her a little bit linebackery, but I don't mind it at all. And then, of course, our last... Oh, did I even give the colors for that? I didn't even give the colors for that. Look at me. I'm just rushing through it. But yeah, I wanted to do something with this that kind of like almost represented lapis. So lapis lazuli. Let me get rid of these real fast. So you can see that a little bit clearer. And because as I was saying, like each of these like little areas look like stones to me, and I really wanted to kind of like encapsulate that in each one. And of course, nothing looks better than that with a little bit of brass, right? I didn't want to go too dark with it because I did find the metallics on this one is if you go medium tone, it looks a little bit dark. So that's what that is, and then we're gonna move on to our last look. Oh, I wanted to do something cool and a little bit dragony. It's kind of like a cooler toned jade. I also wanted to lighten up that leg portion because we've had lots of pops of color on that. And to be honest with you, you could throw in a bunch of different colors in that and it would look really interesting and really cool. But I did want to do something a bit more subtle and keep it in the cool family because the last two looks have been pretty bright. Now, the attachments that I like on this one, let's go ahead and toss them on, are the Prisma Neighboress, so that she looks like a little bit of like a dragon. I was like, ooh, she looks so cool. So as you can see, wait, did I get it wrong? No, I gotta go back. There you go. This is what we're looking at. So you can see right there. She's just like cool and kind of dragony, and as you guys always know, I just try to struggle to make Saryn look like a snake. And I felt like this is kind of like snaky, but not like too over the top snaky, you know? You could also fiddle around with some of the greens. I tried some of the yellower greens and they look really nice as well. That's the metallic for that. And I wanted to do a cool metallic too. This isn't technically cool, but it's a lot cooler than the other colors that I did too. So definitely check that one out. The energy color on this is actually really pretty with spores if you like that. But that does kind of bring the fashion frame for the Nita Moda to a close. Now you guys know how I styled this one, which I think is the one that you guys have all taken a look at already, but let me know in the comment section below which one is your favorite look. Right now I'm kind of liking the second one the best, but I did have a lot of fun with the third one. Alrighty, and that about does it for me for now. I really want to encourage you guys to go ahead and try out this new playstyle as well as the build, whether it's this exact build or some variation that works for you, because I'm gonna be honest, there is no better feeling than getting ahead of that spore cloud and just like spreading them far and wide and just looking around and watching as thousands of points of damage tick away at enemies, stripping away their armor. Oh my god, it feels so freaking good. But that does about do it for me for now, and as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!